Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Buster Show podcast. Today, we have Bo, who is the founder of Buzzer. Bo, welcome to the show, my friend.
Buster, what's going on? Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited for this.
So, first things first, I am an advisor for Buzzer because when you first told me about the platform, it sort of blew my mind. What for anybody that doesn't know, to give context for everything else we talk about, what's the quickest way to explain what Buzzer is?
The quickest way, this is the way I explain it to my mom. Buzzer is a mobile platform that alerts you when uh, moments of a game that you're interested happens, and we alert you and we allow you to watch it in very short form, mobile friendly way.
I love it.
So
Simple
that's
as
the
that.
mom test. Yeah, I worked at Microsoft for 5 years and Twitter for seven, and I've never quite succeeded at explaining to my parents, especially my mom, what I did. Right. And so um, when the first moment when I felt that I got something, we had something, was when I explained it to my mom and she was like, that's a good idea. I was like, you should go do it. I was like, okay, mom, I'm going to go do it. So that led to meeting you down the line. And it's always great to have affirmation along the way. So thank you for that, Buster.
What made you want to, leave those companies you'd worked at before and venture out and build, something of your own?
Yeah, I mean, when I was at Microsoft, I saw firsthand of missing the first wave, for Xbox specifically, where Xbox put a large bet into HD and the entire industry went into Blu-ray, right? And so instead of trying to catch up with Blu-ray, they were one of the first platforms that had streaming, right? They put a big bet on streaming. Actually, they were the first. I know you like fun facts, but they were one of the first devices out there that could stream Netflix. Now you have like 50 different ways to stream Netflix, but it was one of the first products to actually stream Netflix as well as HBO and ESPN. And so saw that phenomenon happen during my time at Twitter. You see a few things happening. The most simple sense is that when crucial games are happening live, or interesting moments are happening in a game, they're trending on Twitter, right? You're tweeting, Hoop Nation is tweeting, Vic Jacoby is tweeting, count on Vic, right? And so that's what comprises of this very active and entertaining group called NBA Twitter, right? And if you're watching the game, you're part of it, right? You're part of that subculture, that community. But if not, I think all of us can agree we have had that moment of panic, or FOMO, or that behavioral response of trying to find the nearest TV, right? And now you got to figure out what channel it's on, what subscription is part of. And the beauty of live sports is that it's magical because it's ephemeral, right? And by the time you figure all that out, it's over, right? And so I had a front row seat in seeing that, behavior happen over and over again. And so really, pushed me to pursue the idea of Buzzer, because I just felt that it was way too valuable not to um, deliver a product for an audience that would naturally use, because we all love sports. We all love watching it live. We just need to figure out when and where to watch it.
So when you go onto the Buzzer app on an NBA game night, if you have League Pass, you can just
Mm-hmm.
sign in and then get all the games for free. But if you don't, you can still watch the games that aren't nationally broadcasted. It's what, like
Mm-hmm.
$1 or $2,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes. We have different SKUs, but primarily we're looking at a 99 cents for the fourth quarter plus overtime, right? And we can dive into a little bit deeper in terms of introducing betting SKUs, right? And bet slips, right? So that we
Yeah.
alert you when your bet slips hit or your prop hits. But, in the most simple sense, it's fourth quarter plus overtime for 99 cents.
It's a lot of fun. So when you started this, I remember when we first met, you had told
Mm-hmm.
me I was not the first person you told about this. You told some NBA legends, some iconic athletes. You got Jordan and Kevin Durant invested. What is your approach for guys like that? how do you get somebody who already has everything in the world excited about something new?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to get someone excited, especially incredible players such as Michael Jordan or Naomi Osaka or Patrick Mahomes or Kevin Durant, is um, having them picture them being part of it or being in it, right? And so
Right.
it's hard not to be part of something that you can easily imagine yourself being in it, right? And so they are first and foremost a consumer, right? They are first and foremost a at times frustrated consumer, right? They want to be part of a consumer solution. From the likes of Kevin Durant and even Rich Kleiman, they are very well versed in terms of consumer products, right? They're very active investors. I think when I first started Buzzer, I took the opposite approach of stealth, where I essentially just showed the demo to anyone who would just give me 30 seconds, right? And because of that, we met, right? Because of that, I've been able to really partner up with some world class athletes and investors because I've been very open about what I was working on, and again, I was very much just demoing the product 24/7 before actually building the team and the product itself. And it's easy because you have the demo on your phone and you can play it real quick
Yeah.
for about 30 seconds of anyone who is generous enough to lend you some time.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. I'm sure those games were broadcasted on national TV, but just imagining, watching the fourth quarter of a Jordan game on Buzzer would be insane live.
It would break, right? And that's the thing. It's that back in the Jordan era. I mean, it's purely coincidental. I'm wearing a Bulls shirt. But during the Jordan era in the '90s, linear television was the primary mode of delivering entertainment, right? Of media. And as we all know, the consumer habit has shifted, right? From you see an entire generation, specifically Gen Z and even younger millennials, that grew up not with TV but with mobile, right? And so when you're looking at the broader landscape, everything is still optimized for television, and that is very much understandable because advertising is a multi-billion-dollar business. Live sports rights is a multi-billion-dollar business. And you are going to optimize where you have the best chance of monetizing it. But one thing that we have to collectively recognize is that you have an entire generation, specifically Gen Z, that was born with mobile first, right? It wasn't TV first like I kind of grew up with. I would wake up, and throughout the day watch Sports Center 3 or 4 times, and by the evening I can recite the entire show,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, it's really hard to find, a someone in Gen Z who would actually do that, right? It's very much been mobile first, short form. So rethinking how to optimize a 3 hour live game that really makes sense on mobile is at the heart of what we do at Buzzer, right? And to your point, we want to be incremental. We want to address an audience that television is not addressing, and so that has been the core part of our mission and what we want to do.
Do you think there will ever be a time where games are broadcasted vertically, like every TikTok?
I do. And shout out to Snapchat or Snap for really kind of paving the way. It's funny because you're seeing a lot of clips and highlights that are posted on TikTok or Snap or
Mhm.
even all the Twitter, where you can't even see the score because the video is getting cut out, right? And so I do think that if the customer is very familiar with vertical video, why not shoot it in a way that they want to, right? I think there's a lot of pushback by traditional purists of saying, hey, if you cut down the game to 5 to 10 minutes, you're really dissuading folks from watching the full game. And my simple answer to that is they're not watching the entire game. And so how do you get folks to actually consume content a little bit if it's 5-10 minutes at a time, but live, as opposed to a highlight or clip on TikTok or Twitter, right? And so my personal philosophy has been put it in the format that you want your future customers to be, right? How do we be customer centric? How do we be um, you know, empathetic to how the Gen Z customer consumes content, and then optimize it around how they consume other pieces of content.
Yeah, it's funny. I know TikTok allows up to 10 minutes of vertical now, and that would literally be the length of the end of the fourth quarter and all of overtime. So
Yeah,
it's definitely, I would also bet that that is an inevitable uh future outcome. It's cool to see the NBA developing more original content as well that goes, like if it used to be in a lot of league pass formats, it would literally just be like a static screen in between
hmm
quarters. And I even complimented them, somebody at the office last week. uh they show like old highlights in between with no commercials. I mean, it's amazing what has happened. And the NBA is now like a Netflix, whereas like for me, Buzzer is like the short form that goes alongside it. Which I think is an interesting development. And I'm curious how it's gone in the couple years since starting it, how it's gone compared to how you thought it was going to go at the beginning. What are the biggest changes?
yeah. I mean, that's a great question, and to just further comment on your point around Netflix versus TikTok, I think Gen Z gets a bad rap of having a short attention span, right? I think it's really a cop out answer to say that just because they consume 10-15 second clips and they just constantly,
Right. They're just picky.
scroll through. They're just picky, right? They're still um, consuming, the F1 Drive to Survive, right? They're binging it, right? That's long form, right? And so you have to be very prudent and intentional about what content you surface to an audience, right? Because there's just so much choice right now, right? Look at content; it's such a crowded landscape, right? And one of the things that we wanted to really focus at Buzzer from the very start has been how do we simplify a very crowded content landscape? And curation is going to be very important, moving forward, right? And so, Netflix did that when you launched Netflix, and it started recommending via carousel of shows that you would like based off of your past consumption of shows, right? Imagine if there is a horizontal consumption curation experience across all the different platforms out there, right? And so,
That'd be crazy.
um, yeah, and that's to be quite just kind of honest. That's the product that we want to build. Is that if you love Yellowstone and you love baseball, we want to be able to recommend you other shows or other games or other sports or other moments of a game because we know that you love Yellowstone and we know that you love baseball, and so I do think that right now, since everything is unbundled, and what that means is, if you don't have cable, you're sitting on 4, 5, 6 different subscription platforms, from ESPN Plus to Paramount Plus to Peacock to Netflix to HBO, and so forth. And now you have no idea what's playing where to find what, right? And in between just kind of the bundling and unbundling, Netflix actually served that cable substitute, right? Where you can launch Netflix and you can still find The Office or Seinfeld or Friends, right?
Mhm.
But as everything is becoming unbundled, The Office is now on Peacock, right? Friends is a Warner property, right? And so,
It gets
for
complicated fast.
yeah, for a consumer, it gets really complicated, right? And all you wanted to do is just watch one mindless episode of The Office to wind down, right? Now it's stressful. Now you got to find out where it's playing, and
The
so
treasure hunt.
yeah, and to layer on top of that, just say that you want to watch. You talked about Russell Westbrook right before the show. You want to watch the Lakers. You want
Yeah.
to watch the Lakers. Same based off of where you are, you need a different subscription, right? And so if you're in LA, you need Spectrum. If you're out of LA, And if they're playing not on TNT or ESPN, by the way, that's two more channels. And if they're playing on League Pass, that's another, right? And shouldn't we all just agree to understand that Buster just wants to watch a damn Lakers game, right? And
I
give him
have
a
that.
very easy access to
I
it.
have that problem with the Knicks. You know,
Yeah,
you have YouTube TV, and then you got cable, but then if you're a Knicks and Yankees fan, they're on separate streaming services and none
yep,
overlap. So you
yep,
need one for the Yankees, you need another. It's like Fubo that has MSG. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. It shouldn't
yeah.
be
And
that
all you
way. It
want to
really
watch,
shouldn't.
yeah, just let
Just a
us
Knicks
watch the
fan. I'm
Knicks.
just trying to give
Yeah.
James Dolan my money. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to donate to a good cause.
Yeah, and so kind of pulling it back a little bit more is, you know, 20 years ago we saw a similar phenomenon happening with music, right? Where you got Universal, you got Columbia, you got Def Jam, you got all these different labels that are trying to kind of push their different albums, right? And when iTunes first came out with albums, you can buy it for $9.99, right? $10. You get an album. Seems like a steal because there's 18 tracks, right? Especially because, and the consumers back then were like, we want songs, we want singles, we want to just buy the songs. And they're like, nah, you can't buy the songs because you got to go to Tower Records and Virgin Records to buy the CDs, And so what happened? People started stealing songs on Napster or on LimeWire,
Yeah.
right? And I've always said that piracy is not because people want to steal, inherently steal. I think that piracy is a simple reflection of the inflexibility of the supply versus the consumer demand, right? And that's where leakage happens, and leakage in the form of piracy, right? And so it wasn't until, and I'm oversimplifying here and a little bit of revisionist history, but when it wasn't until iTunes unbundled the albums to the songs and then created a mobile device called the iPod to easily port those songs. Convenience, affordability, accessibility, right? Eventually made piracy go away, right? And again, I'm oversimplifying here because Napster was slammed with a whole bunch of legal lawsuits and all of
I'm
that.
sure they were.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is, if you make it very convenient, if you make it easy to access, if you make it affordable, piracy will go away. And there are a lot of figures that have been kind of thrown out in terms of piracy from an opportunity cost. The one number that gets consistently thrown out is $28 billion a year. $28 billion, right? That the opportunity cost of people stealing moments in a game, right? Because the reality is that, let's go back to that moment where it's trending on Twitter, right? The last game, it's a heartbreak game, but the last few minutes of the Blazers Lakers was a Dame time happened. But when you're looking at a tweet that says Dame time, let's just like kind of relive the moment. You're scrambling to find the TV. You can't find it. You can't. I would say that a certain portion of the Gen Z population is probably finding it on a illegal stream, right? And
Yeah, lots of
that's an engaged
sites.
consumer.
Yeah, they're promoted all over Twitter. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
clicks them, it gives their computer some diseases, and then
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they get it, maybe they don't, but probably for 99 cents they would choose to avoid that. And
Yeah,
that struggle, if you're able to make it very simple.
absolutely. I mean, we're working on eliminating some barriers around it, right? We've transitioned over to a credit system, so instead of spending 99 cents, you're using 100 credits. We're also figuring out other ways to kind of gamify and incentivize people to be more active on Buzzer, right? And so I've always saw Buzzer as an arcade. I grew up in Chuck E. Cheese. Every birthday I had, it was we had it at Chuck E. Cheese. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and there were a lot of them there. And I also realized how scary the the mouse band was growing up, but I like really enjoyed it as a kid.
In
Um,
retrospect, it's all terrifying.
yeah, it's all very it's dark. The lights are
Yeah,
very
the
weird.
food is probably diseased.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. Um, but I do love the experience of you going in and you putting a $20 bill or a $5 bill into a token machine, and then you get tokens, right? And then you're
Mm,
playing Papa Shot, you're playing skee ball, you're playing air hockey, right? And it's this one unified credit system or token system, right? And so always envision Buzzer to be that arcade that makes it fun, that
for
makes it
sports,
easy
yes.
to for sports. And so, but in terms of back to the piracy idea, they a survey, I think it was Nielsen, did a survey to 1,000 Gen Z folks and said, "Would you pay if it was cheap and available to you?" For folks that are actually pirating, 74% of those folks said yes, right? And so that is incredible in terms of if you give consumers the right, convenient, and cheap way to access content, they will, right? The last resort is piracy, and that becomes a growing issue, right? And so,
Right.
you know, give the users what they want, give the customers what they want, right? In the way that they want to consume content, because I think what we do, uh, the job that we do right now is, do you want a monthly pass? And you're like, no, I just want to watch the last 2 minutes of the Lakers Blazers game. Yeah,
Yeah.
but do you want cable?
It's funny.
You
My
know,
mom, whenever I'm watching sports, she's just like, just tell me when the last 5 minutes are on.
mm-hmm.
I'll watch if it's a close game. If it's not a close game, then growing up, I would like bring the computer wherever I was watching on in there, and we'd watch the last 5 minutes. So there's 100% a lot of people who just want to see that. Pretty much
Dustin,
anybody.
what you just highlighted with your mom is the inherent social nature of sports, though, right? It's just that when you're watching this exciting moment, you're shouting it to the rooftop, saying, "Are you watching this game? This game is crazy,"
Of
right?
course.
And
Yeah, yeah.
you're texting your mom, and you're like, "Mom, watch this," right? And
100%.
for us, and so for us, it's like, how do we promote that? How do we engage further with that, so that folks can actually be able to watch it in a very convenient and easily accessible way?
So you've got the NBA. What other
Mhm.
sports do you want? Are you looking at like oddball sports? Pickleball is like the fastest growing sport people are saying these days. Are you looking at alternative sports like that, and in terms of adding, or how do you go about that process and getting those?
Yeah. So in addition to the NBA, we have WNBA. We are in 5 days about to announce one other league, which
Ah,
we'll look back with. And then we should have a one or two more league partnerships set by the end of the year. Um,
awesome.
earlier
Congrats.
this year, thank you, thank you. Earlier this year, we announced our partnership with DAZN, a subscription video on demand service that is very much focused on boxing, but they also have other sports. So it's a multi-sports subscription video on demand property. We also have our partnership with FanDuel, right, which we can dive into a little bit deeper. But what we our simple philosophy is that we want to lay the groundwork or the foundation of bringing in a mass audience through a mass appeal sport, right, such as the NBA, right? And our aspiration is to do a deal with every single league and rights holder out there. What I'm especially proud of is our partnership with women's sports and specifically the WNBA, and that's an area that we want to continuously really invest in, because when you're looking at the reality of women's sports, um, very rarely are they given a very favorable um, day part, right? They're played throughout the afternoon on a Saturday or Sunday, right? And so you see this
In the
vicious
summer.
cycle in the summer at that, right? And so, um, in the summer and when we have just spent the last 2.5 years inside. So the last thing we're going to do on the weekends is stay inside, right? And so you see this kind of vicious cycle where these games are played at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, which means that viewership is not going to be great because no one's sitting in front of a television, which means that advertiser demand is down because their audience is not large enough, right? And when advertiser dollars are not or demand is not there, then they will never move off of that day part, right? And so I do think that for the short term, buzzer can be a good fix for that, right? Because Buster, if you're out and about and I alert you saying that Candace Parker is popping off, like you're going to watch the game,
For
right?
sure.
And
Yeah, back of a car at lunch. I mean, whatever it is, you just prop it up. Yeah.
absolutely. So that's where we want to really kind of focus on is who are your favorite players, especially the WNBA and women's sports, right? Is that more than the team itself, the individuals are the brand, right? Alex Morgan is a household brand, right?
100%.
Candace Parker is a household brand, right? I don't think that a lot of people know that Alex Morgan plays for San Diego, right? And
It's a
they
good
just
point.
know Alex Morgan as the one of the captains for the U.S. women's national team, right? And so, how do we use the awareness, leveraged awareness of the individual, the player, to drive tune in and really grow the sport? And I think that's where we can really kind of focus on and invest in terms of how do we leverage the individual and the brand of the player.
I love that. It's one of the things that I love most about collectibles. Say, there are a lot of guys, a lot of NBA fans who are never WNBA fans. Panini, which is the company that makes the majority of basketball cards as of now,
Mm-hmm.
licenses are switching around, but they launched a WNBA product in 2020 of the most famous product called Prism. And all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden it converted hundreds of thousands of basketball NBA collectors
Mm-hmm.
into WNBA investors and fans because they were buying the cards that they thought had the best prospects, and naturally they're going to drive attention. I went in on Sabrina cards and now I want to watch
Mm-hmm.
Sabrina. Once
Yeah.
the second you have some vested interest, whether that's by getting their collectibles, whether it's rooting for the team, whether it's living near the stadium, or somebody who feels one of those three buckets. I'm sure there are more that I'm not thinking of, but it really changes everything. And I can definitely attest to collectibles in that regard, uh in a way where, yeah, I'd love to be able to watch the last 2 minutes of Sabrina games where it's close because I want her to be the one who's taking the last shot and not her teammates. But like that sort of thing, I think is really fun about it. And I can visualize it.
Yeah, I think collectibles is all about this emotional attachment of what you have, right? And also understanding that it's scarce, right? That it's rare, right? And we talked about this a bit where is there a future where we create digital collectibles based off
Yeah,
of moments that you've witnessed live,
there
right?
has to be.
And yeah, and also we can tell you are one of 1,000 people who watch this buzzer beater live, right? And this is your idea, Buster. Shout out to you. Is that and you joined earlier than anyone. You started watching the game earlier than anyone when that moment happened that you did not know was going to happen, right? And
Oh, it would be
so
amazing. It would be amazing.
yeah, and really kind of pull the audience back of getting them emotionally invested and attached to the moment that you're about to watch. And the reason why we love live sports so much is that we don't know what the outcome is going to be, right? We think we do, right? Given that who has the ball, right? But
Based on how much
I
money
think
people are betting, they definitely think they do.
yeah, definitely. But I think that's what is the beauty of live sports is that it's communal, it's social, and there is that moment of anticipation, right? And that's what really kind of drives me to build Buzzer is that I want the next generation to like experience that, right?
Mhm.
I see my 5-year-old nephew. He watches that Ryan kid on YouTube of
Yeah,
unboxing,
Ryan, the
right?
toys. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and he finds joy in him opening up a box, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like it's the same thing as it has to be the same thing as watching Dame, you know, hit that logo shot, and just that, moment of happiness or joy. I think there's a lot to be said around that, secondhand gratification of experience something in the moment.
Yeah, low effort. It's pretty calming or exciting,
Hmm.
depends on how you feel about the team. Like if I'm a Knicks fan and I'm watching the Lakers Blazers game, I don't care what happens. I'm just
Yeah.
watching to see something happen. So in that case it's calming, but I can imagine for any Lakers fan it'd be a very stressful experience. But that's the fun. It's there's so many different ways to interpret the entertainment. And I think that's what makes it fun. And the betting aspect of it I love, which is just like for people who are desensitized to watching
Hmm.
their favorite team or
Hmm.
desensitized to watching games that they don't care about, re-incentivizing them to care. That's really what betting is. Nobody's retiring off sports betting. So it's about getting the dopamine coming again, which is
Yeah,
it's a real thing.
and it's a way to engage an audience, right? And so, I mean, we do it all the time. It's like, Buster, if I'm at a sports bar with you and I say, hey, I bet you a beer, that my team's going to be your team, right? It's a beer, right? And it's something that is fun and then engaging. The goal of Buzzer for a sports better is becoming the destination to watch your bets play out live, right? And so the essence of Buzzer has just been, how do we utilize data to identify moments to alert an audience, right? To bring people together. And that also includes a sports better, right? So if I can understand that Buster put a 3 leg parlay, you know, over 3.5 Joel Embiid rebounds, a $20 on a 3.5 point spread between the Knicks and Celtics, right? And I'm making this up, but um, you know, triple double. This should get a pretty good payout. Triple double of Luka, right? So imagine if I were to send you 3 alerts of, hey, Joel Embiid has 10 rebounds. Watch this live, Buster. And guess what? Because you place the bet on a sports book will actually pay for you to watch that for free, right?
That's
Um,
cool.
so
That's
so a good
cool.
analogy is the drinks are free when you're playing blackjack at the casino, right? And
Right.
so you're watching that first leg. You're over 10, 10 rebounds. You watch Embiid, Joe get the 11th rebound. All right, next game. Hey, Buster, it's a 4 point game between the Celtics and Knicks. I know you put $20 on the 3.5 point spread, right? And so you watch the last 2 minutes of the Celtics and Knicks game. And then lastly is, you know, you know Luka is 1 assist away from a triple double, right?
Mhm.
And you get another alert saying, hey, he got 9 assists. Watch Luka get the 10th one, right? And so in those individual 3 very separate games, separate occasions, but what we understand is that Buster is sincerely interested in those 3 different scenarios, right? And so why not let him watch all 3 of them live?
It's interesting. Yeah, whoever the betting partner is would definitely benefit greatly from having that unique uh offering of allowing people to watch the games from home. Because that's something that I guess I've always had a problem with. I've talked to friends about this. Like apparently each TV provider has a different delay to the live game. So for like people who
Mm-hmm.
bet on games, they all have a specific TV subscription that's like 5 seconds faster than the whatever. But the apps often take advantage of you in that regard because of that
Mm-hmm.
latency. You're betting on something that you think is what you're watching on TV, but in reality, the numbers change so fast
Yeah.
that you're betting on something that happened 15 seconds ago in real life. So I think where if there was a live feed through those platforms, that would make a pretty significant difference. I know for people who are once you're aware of that fact, you can never forget it. But
Yeah, I think video latency is going to be more of a commoditized product over time, right? And so it'll improve. I think tennis has made significant strides in that, right? Where you can bet on anything, a double fault, an
Yeah.
ace, right? And even someone netting, right? And I think that tennis has made significant strides in actually making sure that there is fairness in sports betting, because if that becomes more broad, I think that the consumers will be very cynical about the entire kind of sports betting industry as a whole.
But
I think
it's true for basketball that it doesn't matter as
Mhm.
much till the last minute.
Absolutely, yeah, and so I think basketball is super interesting, and again, think about the last time you put a multiple leg parlay. Are you figuring out how to watch all of it? No, you're probably like, okay, I'll just check, how many out of the seven I hit the next day,
Yeah.
right? Because it's extremely hard to track all of them, right?
You're so
But
right. It's such a good idea. It's such a
where
good
the buzzer
idea
can allow you to do that,
to
right?
notify people and allow them to tune in, whether it's for free or through tokens or credits.
Yeah. Yeah. What's a dollar when you put $20 on the line, right? And so
Especially if it's to
um
win like a couple hundred.
absolutely.
Those
No, I
multiple
think
legger.
I, I learned a ton looking at Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee does these ridiculous, 6 to 13 leg parlays, and you can watch it with him, right? And you can
Yeah.
watch him sweat through, sweat while each of his parlays work out. But again, that is a 3-4 hour game format. You're watching it for a long period of time, and not a lot of folks have that time. So how do we kind of chop that up and optimize it for mobile, and alert you when those moments matter? And so that's where I'm very excited about, in terms of our partnership with sports betting. We have no intention of becoming a sports operator, a betting operator. What we want to do is just cater to the sports betting audience, and we feel that curated notifications based off of their bet slips is going to be a very significant value add for those type of sports fans.
How much do you think about sports outside of the United States, such as major soccer leagues and uh, you know, sports worldwide?
I do a ton because think about you being a Tottenham Hotspurs fan and you live in LA. You got to wake up at 5, 6 a.m. in the morning,
Yeah.
right? And so I think time zone unfriendly games, and we'll certainly see that with the World Cup too, right? Where a lot of matches are going to be played in the morning and early morning based off of where you are. So European soccer or football is something that we've been very keenly eyeing on and focused on. Um, I also think cricket. Cricket is a 3 to 5 game day
The,
format.
what is it? The biggest sport in the world or second biggest sport in the world?
I mean, I think it's the second biggest after soccer, but you have an entire country that's watching that, right? And
Oh,
so,
yeah. They've had
um,
matches with 1 billion viewers, which is, to
yes,
my understanding, never happened in any other sport.
yeah, I mean, what people don't realize about cricket is that you think that NFL dominates the U.S. So there was I read a study. I, I I don't know what source it is, but the high level kind of study was consumption penetration, which means if that game is available to you, would you watch it? And it doesn't matter who the teams are. It's would you watch it? And in the US, NFL had around a 70% consumption penetration, which means that if there is a football game that is available to you on television, 70% of Americans would watch that, right?
That's a
That
very
of
high number. Yeah.
very high number. I mean, this was 2016, and I still think that NFL dominates, here in the US, right? It's no
Mhm.
surprise that, a Thursday night football game will do anywhere between 13 to 15 million viewers.
Right.
It's something that is very common. In India, the cricket consumption penetration is around 98%.
Holy cow. That's
So,
insane. That's a
which
crazy.
means, I mean, and which means that if cricket is available to you, almost 100% of the people will just stop and watch it. It's like, and it's incredible when you think about it. And in 2016, I experienced kind of a IPL tender, which was the tendering of the rights moving forward for IPL. And Facebook shocked everyone back in the day in 2016 or 17, where they bid $600 million for IPL rights. $600 million. And the reason why Facebook looked at it, and we at Twitter, we did the analysis. We were like, there's no way you can make money from that. We had a break-even point, and 600 million was multiples of that break-even point. But the reason why Facebook went so hard at it is because you own cricket in India, you own the market.
Yeah.
You own, you will get people to download your product because you have cricket, right? And so it's really hard to fathom that here in the US because yes, the NFL is very dominant, but does that app become the most downloaded app, in your market because you have that one sport? No, right? And so I do think that cricket is super interesting for us in terms of capturing an audience, specifically because it's a very long form format. It's a 3 to 5 day format.
Crazy. That penetration rate is unreal. And it's funny too. Like I've said this before, but it's for the first time in history, there are people online with 50 to 100 million followers that you've never heard of. There are TikTok dancers and YouTubers and cricket players and soccer players and basketball players for some, and politicians that you've never even heard of. And they've got 75 million followers. It's insane. And
it's insane.
And from, my standpoint as well, there's not one platform that I guess is able to properly monetize around all of them. TikTok is banned in a lot of countries like China and India. Not everybody is a YouTuber. Certain sports, like we've talked about in this episode, are only available to certain people in certain places, and there's so many nuances there. There isn't really anything that's properly able to capture all of those people, the 50 to 100 million plus.
Yeah.
Something interesting to think about that Buzzer can, have a really good place in.
Yeah, I mean, Bloomberg, I think 2 years ago, reported the spending power of Gen Z to be $230 billion. Right?
This is a little.
I mean, I think Gen Z has officially become the biggest population in the world.
Whoa,
right?
That's intense.
I mean, you're part of it, and so I am not. But
blow a lot of money. So
yeah, no, but also, but Buster, you are very discerning about where you spend it, right? You're extremely, when you spend it, but you're very discerning about where to spend it.
Of course.
And so I think that's where we need to really kind of focus on is how do you, again, it goes back to personalization and curation. It's that, Gen Z is not going to watch any show or any game. You have to personalize it. You have to give them reasons why, right? And again, you have to make them feel a certain way, right? And it ties back to emotions. The same way that you love collectibles again, it's tied back to an emotion that you have, right? And so how do we, and that's the thing about the beauty of live sports. I tweeted this, I think 2 days ago. I don't even like the Phillies, but someone overlaid the Moneyball theme song with Bryce Harper hitting that 2-run walk-off, and they slowed the video down.
That's good.
And it like gave me goosebumps, and I don't care for the Phillies. Watching that over and over again, I'm like, that is why we love sports. That's why we love live sports. We love being in the moment. It makes us feel a certain way. It makes us all tingly inside. It's just like, I love that. And again, that's what really kind of drives the passion for me in creating a product that fosters that emotion, that togetherness, because again, I think the entire generation, specifically Gen Z, is losing out on it because it's so convenient to watch a highlight or clip on TikTok or on Twitter.
Yeah, the live experience is different. It's why, it's the thing, live sports, the thing that still holds up TV for maybe other generations, but when there's a big boxing match, I mean, that's the best example, because it's like,
of course,
gladiatorship. I mean, this stuff has not. The only thing that has changed is that they're not killing each other. Nobody
Yeah,
dies at the end, usually.
yeah, yeah.
But even the
Fortunately,
chance of somebody getting knocked out is enough to make everybody stop what they're doing. Like, you remember Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor? The
yeah,
world stopped. That
yeah.
that is the power of, that's like the ultimate, that if you can, if like I think for records in like the NBA, so like there's a big one coming up with LeBron, obviously, like the
Hmm.
chase to X number of points. Like those things are exciting and can make people stop and appreciate greatness. But yeah, it's that there's definitely a lot there. I'm totally
Yeah,
with
you,
you.
you you see the Aaron Judge 62 home
Great
runs,
example.
right?
Yeah.
Albert Pujols 700,
Yeah,
right?
we got a couple of them.
Yeah, or even just like a simple no hitter. It's that you may not even know the team or the player, but you understand the concept of a no hitter, and you want to watch it because you're like, is this person going to complete the no hitter or not? Right? And
Yeah.
if we were able to alert everyone at say the top of the ninth, right? I think people would watch it, right? And
I know
um,
people would watch it. This is something, and we can close after this, but something that I think
mm,
about very often is every day I try to do a few things that I will never regret doing. So
mm,
that can be working out, that can be trying
mhm,
to eat healthy, that can be talking to people I really like or my family. If I can do a couple things a day that I'll never regret,
mhm.
it's at bare minimum been an okay day.
That's a great
Um,
way to live.
and things like that, like if you think about like if you think about what you were doing 10 years ago, on we recorded this on October 26th, you
Mhm.
probably can't picture exactly what you were doing on October 26th. But if you tuned in for 3
Yeah,
minutes to watch the no
yeah.
hitter, you will remember exactly what you were doing on October 26th, 2022 or 2010 or 12. So like those little things,
Mhm.
they matter because
Yeah,
you want to do as many things that you're going to remember as possible. That's how
yeah, and I think that
make your
dovetails
day.
into your digital collectible idea. Is like, how do I also give you a digital memento that you witnessed this live, you were in the moment, right? And I think that is just a shift that where we need to be, right? And I joke because I'm saying, hey, you should be present in the moment in a game, and my wife's like, well, you know, you're watching a game and I'm sitting next to you and we're not talking. And I'm like, yeah, but it's 5 minutes. I was like, would you rather have 5 minutes uh, where I'm distracted or, where I spend an entire afternoon on Sunday? She's like, I'm so thankful. And I said this actually on a panel um, 2 weeks ago at the SVJ World Congress. I was sitting next to the COO of NFL media. And I professed to the entire group saying, I opted to go upstate to see the fall foliage, instead of sitting on my couch and watching Red Zone. And Hans was like, "You picked fall leaves over the NFL." I was like, "No, I actually picked my marriage over the NFL."
Ooh.
But to the point of just being able to get alerts when my fantasy roster matters. That's all I
Yeah.
need,
Fantasy is
right?
another great component. Yeah, it falls in line with the betting
Absolutely.
concept. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, Mahomes is on my squad. So, when the Chiefs are in the red zone, that's all I want to watch. That's all I want to watch, right? And so, I think there's so many use cases of how we can really drive Buzzer as a product, and I'm very thankful to have you as an advisor. And I um, love waking up to text message saying, "Hey, how about we do this?" Or how about this product idea? They're excellent in the sense that it's that's what will make this product great is that you are our customer, right? I think that you're the folks that listen to your show are our customers, right? And
For
so
sure.
keep the feedback coming, right? And we want to continuously innovate in areas where it is very much kind of empathetic to what our customer wants, right? Including yourself. So
Well,
I think I inadvertently closed your show, like
no,
myself.
you you did a great job of doing that. I mean, everybody get on Buzzer. If you're not on Buzzer, that's all that's left to be said. Both, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it as always. Where can people find you as well in addition to Buzzer?
Yeah, at Bohan, Bohan at Twitter, right? That is my primary source. Shout out to my Twitter family for helping me build to what we have and who I am. But you can find me on Twitter. And yeah, I mean, again, Buzzer is available on the App Store as well as Google Play. So check it out. Give us feedback. And Buster, thank you again for having me. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Sweet. All right, everybody. See you next time. Peace.